It started with a sign that didn't promise discounts or success or transformation. It simply said you can't buy presents, but you can find it. Most people would have walked right past it, but not her. Not the woman who once owned half the skyline but couldn't remember the last time she felt at home. This is a story about what happens when everything you thought mattered stops, and something else quietly begins. If you believe in stories that remind us what truly matters, consider liking this video and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Now let's begin. The wind rattles the window frames like an impatient guest. Snow falls in slow spirals, soft but relentless, covering the pine trees that line the narrow mountain road. Inside the therapy cabin, Eli Turner folds towels with mechanical precision. His hands are steady, practiced, but there is a heaviness in the way his shoulders slump, the kind of weight that doesn't come from labor but from living. The cabin smells like cedar and lavender. Simple, clean, nothing fancy. A worn wooden table stands in the corner next to a ceramic lamp that hums with warm light. On the shelf sits a clock, an old pendulum clock that has always run 5 minutes slow. Eli never bothered to fix it. Some things he believes are meant to stay imperfect. He walks over to the massage table and straightens the sheets, his fingers smoothing out every wrinkle as if life itself can be made neat if he just presses hard enough. A soft voice breaks the silence. Not a person, just his own daughter's voice echoing in memory. "Dad, why do you fold everything twice? Because twice feels like enough when the world has taken everything else once." But he didn't say that to her. He never does. Instead, out loud now to no one in particular, he murmurs, "Because neat things don't fall apart." He exhales long and quiet. His breath fogs the window pane. Beyond the glass, snow covers the wooden sign that reads Ridge Haven Therapy, letters fading. Wood splintered from too many winters. Eli checks his phone. No missed calls, no messages. Good news in a way. Silence is safer than the kind of calls that come from debt collectors or from Sophie's school telling him she's caught a cold again. He steps to the back room where shelves hold neatly folded linens, jars of oils, and a small tin box labeled Sophie's College Fund. He tosses a crumpled $20 bill into it. The sound it makes hitting the few other bills inside is quieter than he wishes it was. Snow keeps falling. Wind hums through the gaps in the window. He likes the sound. Out here in this town, nobody Googles quiet is not something you pay extra for. It just exists, like the cold, like time. Eli flips the open sign to closed. The final session of the day ended an hour ago. The last client, an elderly woman with arthritis in her shoulders, told him, "You have good hands, not just strong but kind." He smiled but didn't answer. Compliments are like snow. They fall, they melt, they disappear. As he wipes down the table one last time, a car engine breaks the silence. Not the usual rusty pickup trucks or familiar engines from locals. This one is different. A low hum. Expensive, smooth, deliberate. Eli glances out the window. Headlights cut through the falling snow. A black SUV rolls into the gravel lot, tires crunching against ice. Strange, no appointments, no walk-ins at this hour. He steps back, watching as the driver door opens. A woman steps out, tall, slim, wrapped in a long coat. Her shoes are not made for snow. Sharp heels sink slightly into the frozen gravel. She pushes her sunglasses onto her head even though the sun set an hour ago. Her hair is neat, her movements even neater. Precise. like someone who doesn't waste energy pretending to belong in places she has no intention of staying. She stands there for a moment, not rushing, just assessing the building, the man watching her through the glass, the choice she is about to make. Eli doesn't move, doesn't wave, doesn't smile. In his world, strangers who arrive at closing time rarely bring anything worth welcoming. The woman steps forward. The snow catches in her hair, but she doesn't brush it off. She reaches the door, grips the handle, and pushes it open. The brass bell above the door jingles softly. Eli holds his breath. She steps inside. Her eyes scan the room, the massage table, the wooden floor, the clock that still ticks 5 minutes behind reality. And then with a voice as steady as the snow outside but edged with something brittle, something almost close to breaking, she says, $1 million for one night. No touching, no questions, no explanations. Just presence. The wind howls louder against the windows. But inside the cabin, the silence becomes something else, something heavier, something that demands to be answered. The brass bell above the door chimes softly as the woman steps fully into the room. Snowflakes cling to the edges of her coat, melting without notice. Her heels click against the wooden floor, a sound too sharp, too foreign for a place designed for quiet. She pauses, looks around, not out of curiosity but calculation, as if measuring how much space her presence should occupy here. Eli doesn't move from behind the counter. He watches, but not like most people watch someone like her. No flicker of recognition, no hint of intimidation, just steady observation. The woman notices. Her chin lifts half an inch, a reflex the kind polished in boardrooms, not cabins. Her voice is deliberate, controlled. It carries no apology, no hesitation, only intent. $1 million. The words hit the room like the first crack of thunder before a storm. She continues, voice unwavering. For one night, no touching, no intimacy, no anything. I just need someone here, in this space. Until morning. Eli doesn't blink. His hands stay resting on the folded towel he was about to put away. For a moment, the only sound is the soft tick of the old clock and the wind battering against the window. He inhales through his nose. Slow, measured. Then asks, simple, neutral. Why the woman's lips press together, not anger, not discomfort. Something closer to exhaustion disguised as poise. It doesn't matter. Her eyes sweep the room again, lingering on the fireplace, the massage table, the worn leather chair in the corner. Just say yes. Stay. Until dawn. That's all. Eli leans slightly on the counter, folding his arms. His voice is calm. Steady. You walked in here offering a number that most people never even see in their lifetime. But you expect me to believe it doesn't matter. A flicker crosses her face. Brief, almost imperceptible. It matters to me, she admits, but it doesn't need to matter to you. You don't even need to ask questions. Eli shakes his head. Slow, firm, that's the problem. You think presence is something you can buy. The woman doesn't flinch, doesn't fold. Her hands stay at her sides, perfectly still. Eli's voice lowers. Not cruel, not condescending, just honest. I don't sell presents. Not for 100, not for 1,000, not for 1,000,000. She steps forward just one step. Not aggressive, not pleading, just searching. You have no idea who I am, do you? Her tone shifts. Not arrogance, something more fragile pretending to be strength. Eli answers without hesitation. No. Then after a pause, and I don't think that matters either. Silence stretches between them. Not empty silence. Heavy, dense, the kind of quiet that holds its breath and waits to see who breaks first. The woman crosses her arms, glancing toward the fireplace. Her eyes soften just slightly. Her voice follows suit. You think I'm offering this because I'm desperate for a man? Eli's gaze doesn't move. His tone doesn't change. No. I think you're desperate for something that has nothing to do with me. Or money. She swallows, looks away. For a fraction of a second, her carefully engineered composure trembles. Eli lets the silence return. This time it's not confrontational. It's compassionate, letting her decide what to do next. Finally, the woman exhales. Long, controlled. But this time there's a crack in it. A fracture she no longer bothers to hide. Most people would say yes, she mutters more to herself than him. Eli nods. Most people are allowed to make their choices. I've made mine. She closes her eyes just for a second, as if remembering how it feels to be tired in a way that no amount of sleep can fix. When she opens them, there's something different there. Not surrender. Not defeat. Something quieter. If I just sit here quietly until the place closes, does that cost anything? Eli straightens, doesn't smile, doesn't sigh. Just answers softly. Sitting is free. Silence is free. Peace, you'll have to find that yourself. The woman's shoulders lower by half an inch. The kind of shift no one notices unless they're looking for it. She steps to the leather chair in the corner, slowly, carefully. Like someone approaching wild terrain she doesn't know how to navigate. As she sits, the clock on the wall ticks. 5 minutes behind the world, but perfectly in rhythm with this moment. Eli watches her for a second longer, then turns back to folding towels. Quiet, present, unmoved. And outside, the snow keeps falling. For a while, neither of them speaks. Not her, not him. The tension, sharp just minutes ago, begins to dissolve, not because anything has been solved, but because sometimes silence is the only answer left when words run out of meaning. Eli moves quietly. He folds the last towel, sets it into a wooden basket, and wipes down the massage table with slow, practiced strokes. His back faces her not out of disrespect, but because this is his rhythm. The way he stitches order back into his little corner of the world. Vivian sits in the leather chair, her posture perfect, but her breathing not. Her eyes scan the room again, but now not as an investor, not as a CEO, not as someone measuring value. This time she looks the way someone looks when they realize they've entered a different universe than the one they usually rule. There's nothing luxurious here, no glass walls, no curated artwork, no soundproofing to drown out the imperfections, just the creak of wood. The ticking of a clock that's never been corrected. The scent of eucalyptus lingering beneath the warmth of burning cedar. Her fingers trace the edge of the chair's worn armrest. The leather has softened from years of hands gripping it. Hands of tired people, hurt people, people seeking something. She glances sideways. Eli is rinsing out a ceramic bowl at the small sink. His movements are steady, not hurried, not avoiding. He knows she's still there. He simply chooses not to fill the space with noise. Vivian lets her head fall back ever so slightly. Her gaze finds the ceiling, wooden beams, a single crack running across one. Not dangerous, just a flaw that has learned how to stay put without falling apart. Her voice comes softer now. Not meant to restart the conversation, just existing. It's quiet here. Eli doesn't turn. He just nods. That's the point. She breathes in, holds it, lets it go. Slowly, like someone who's just realized how long she's been breathing shallow without noticing. Outside, the snow continues to fall, heavy now, thick flakes that swallow sound before it can even hit the ground. The brass bell on the door sways slightly in the draft, its movement silent. Minutes pass, maybe 10, maybe 20. Time works differently in places like this. Finally, Eli finishes stacking the folded linens. He wipes his hands on a cloth and walks over to the fireplace. With one small log, he feeds the flames, then pokes at the embers until they glow brighter. Still no words. Vivian watches him, studies him, not in the way people study competitors or threats, but in the way someone studies a language they don't speak but wishes they did. When he straightens, Eli finally turns to her fully. His eyes meet hers, steady and unflinching. But what surprises her is that his gaze carries no judgment, no curiosity, no offer, no refusal, just presence. A simple, unspoken fact exchanged between two people. You are here. I am here. That's all. Vivian shifts in her seat. For a brief second, her body softens, her arms uncross, her shoulders lower. The wall isn't gone, but maybe it's cracked. She doesn't say she's staying. She doesn't say she's leaving. She doesn't have to. Eli gives a small nod, not as permission, not as welcome, just acknowledgement. Then, as if this is the most normal thing in the world, he walks back behind the counter. He picks up a pen, opens the appointment book, begins writing notes about supplies he needs. Lavender oil, new towels, a hinge for the back door, life's simple maintenance. And behind him, a billionaire sits quietly, surrounded by a silence she didn't know how much she needed until now. The snow keeps falling. The clock keeps ticking. 5 minutes slow. Right on time. The fire crackles softly. Outside, the wind has calmed, but snow continues its quiet work, layer upon layer, smothering sound, swallowing the world in white. Inside the therapy cabin, the silence lingers. Not the heavy, strained kind, but the strange, elastic kind of silence that forms when two people realize they are now occupying the same space for reasons neither fully understands. Vivian shifts in her seat, not out of discomfort, not yet, but because her body isn't used to stillness. Her gaze flickers toward Eli. He's at the counter scribbling notes onto a scrap of paper, an inventory list by the look of it. His posture is relaxed but upright, his presence grounded. She crosses her legs, smooths the fabric of her coat. Her fingers toy with a gold ring on her right hand, a habit, a tell. Then casually, too casually, her voice slices through the quiet. Do you know who I am? It isn't a threat. Not quite, but not a question asked by someone who expects the answer to be no. Eli doesn't look up, not immediately. He finishes writing the word eucalyptus before setting the pen down. His fingers tap twice against the counter, then he lifts his eyes to meet hers. Steady, unimpressed, completely unshaken. No. A beat passes, a longer beat than most people would tolerate. Vivian leans back, arms crossing, her eyebrow arches just enough to suggest surprise or perhaps annoyance. You're not curious, Eli exhales, slow, controlled. His answer is a simple shrug. Curiosity doesn't pay the rent. The fire pops behind him, sending a brief glow across the wall. Shadows dance. Vivian's lips press together. Something about that answer, it doesn't fit. It doesn't follow the script. She's used to curiosity. She's used to people scrambling to figure her out, to decide whether to flatter, to fear, or to profit. But Eli offers none of those. just presence. She tilts her head, studies him. Most people would ask. Eli folds another towel, places it precisely atop the stack. His hands are deliberate, efficient. He speaks without looking her way. Most people believe that knowing someone's title tells them who that person is. She watches him carefully. And you don't. Now he does look at her, fully. Calm, yes, but not distant. There's weight in his eyes, not judgment. Just a man who's learned to see beyond packaging. I've learned titles are just armor. Doesn't tell you what's underneath. Doesn't tell you if the person wearing it is whole or hollow. Vivian's fingers pause. Her grip on the armrest tightens for half a second. She recovers quickly, but it's there. A crack. That's a rather philosophical answer for a man who folds towels. A flicker of something crosses Eli's face. Not offense, something closer to amusement. And that's a rather defensive reaction for a woman offering $1 million for silence. Her lips part half to retort half because, well, she wasn't expecting that. But no words come. Not yet. The wind brushes against the window. The clock ticks, 5 minutes slow, still reliable in its imperfection. Vivian shifts again. The air between them isn't cold, but it isn't warm either. It's something else. She breaks eye contact first, looks toward the fire. Her voice lowers. Less edge now, more tired. You think you've got me figured out, don't you? Eli shakes his head, not with dismissal, but with a kind of gentle certainty. Takes 5 seconds to label someone. Takes a lifetime to realize you were wrong. She swallows, looks back at him. Something softer now. Something unguarded for just a breath. How long have you lived like this? Eli's eyes don't flinch. Long enough to know peace isn't something you chase. It's something you choose. Her gaze drops to her hands. Her fingers twist the ring once, twice. She doesn't reply. For the first time in years, she isn't sure what the next line is supposed to be. The clock ticks. The fire crackles. Somewhere beyond the thick snow, a branch groans under the weight of winter and snaps. But inside the cabin, nothing else. No voices, no movement, just stillness. Vivian sits in the same leather chair, hands resting in her lap now. Not crossed, not clenched. Her posture, once sharp and commanding, has softened by degrees she doesn't fully realize. She watches, quietly. Eli moves about the room like someone following a map only he can see. Wiping down shelves, refilling small amber bottles labeled lavender, peppermint, eucalyptus. He arranges them in neat lines on the wooden tray near the massage table. Each motion is unhurried but not aimless. There's no performative grace to it, no pretense, just rhythm. Quiet, deliberate rhythm. He adjusts a crooked frame on the wall, tightens a loose hinge on a cabinet door, lights a small candle by the window, not for ambiance, just for light, practical, simple. Vivian studies him, not because she's curious in the way she's used to being curious, scanning for leverage, weakness, or opportunity. This is different. It feels strange watching someone exist without performing, without selling, without asking for attention. She can't remember the last time she was in the presence of someone who didn't need anything from her. The realization unsettles her more than she expected. The clock ticks on. 5 minutes behind. Steady, unapologetic about it. Eli walks over to the window, pulls the curtain back an inch, looks at the snow, just looks, then lets the curtain fall back into place. Nothing said, nothing needed. He returns to the counter, checks a list, crosses something off, refills a jar of herbal tea bags, places it on the shelf above the sink. Vivian's eyes follow every movement. It's hypnotic in a way. How can someone move through the world like this, so unaffected, so content to simply be? A gust of wind rattles the door. The brass bell trembles but doesn't ring. She shifts in her seat, glances toward the fireplace. The logs hiss as pockets of moisture evaporate in tiny bursts of steam. The warmth from the flames reaches her legs, her hands. Slowly, gently, like something offered without condition. Vivian exhales, long, controlled. She hadn't realized until now how shallow her breathing had become. Her eyes drift toward the clock. It's not a fancy clock, just wood and brass, but it ticks, faithfully, even if behind. Her voice breaks the quiet, not loud, not sharp, just present. "Why don't you fix that clock, Eli?" Without looking up, answers simply. "Because not everything broken needs fixing." The answer lingers, hangs in the air like the scent of cedar smoke. She turns that over in her mind, rolls it between her thoughts like a stone in her hand, not sure if it's wisdom or just stubbornness. Eli kneels briefly to adjust a crooked rug corner. His knee pops audibly as he stands. He rubs it absently but doesn't complain. From the shelf, he pulls a small ceramic bowl, checks it, wipes it, stacks it, all quiet, all intentional. Vivian finds herself leaning forward slightly, noticing things she wouldn't normally notice. The frayed edge of a throw blanket, the way the grain of the wood splits beneath the window frame, the faint scratch on the glass of the clock face like a scar no one bothers to hide. The wind sighs through the eaves. The fire shifts. Time stretches, bends. She no longer knows how long they've sat like this. 10 minutes. 20 more. She doesn't check her phone. For the first time in years, she doesn't even reach for it. A strange thought slips into her mind, uninvited but persistent. What if this is what peace actually feels like? Not a beach, not a luxury retreat, not a 5-star spa with curated playlists and oxygen facials. Just this. A man folding towels, a fire burning, a clock that refuses to be on time. Her eyes sting suddenly. Unexpected, unexplained. She blinks hard, swallows it down. No, not now. Eli doesn't notice, or maybe he does, but if he does, he doesn't show it. Instead, he adjusts the wick of the candle by the window, straightens a bottle on the shelf, moves through the space like someone tending to something fragile, not her, not himself, just life. And Vivian realizes this is the first time in over a decade that silence doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like relief. The clock ticks on. The fire hums. The air has settled into something neither comfortable nor uncomfortable, just still. Vivian sits quietly, fingers tracing invisible patterns along the armrest of the worn leather chair. Her gaze flickers between the fireplace and Eli, who now moves behind the counter, counting out fresh tea bags into a tin marked chamomile. Her lips part once, but no words come. She closes them again, then exhales long and slow, as if the act of deciding to speak is somehow heavier than the words themselves. Finally, softly, she asks, almost like testing the weight of it, "If I just sit here, does that cost anything?" Her voice isn't sharp now, not armored. It's quieter than she expected it to be, maybe even quieter than she wanted it to be. Eli doesn't answer right away. He sets the tin on the shelf, lines it up until it sits perfectly square with the others. Then, without looking at her, his voice comes, calm, even. "No, sitting's free." He reaches for a ceramic mug, wipes it clean, stacks it with the others. Vivian watches him waiting because it feels like there's more. And there is. Eli glances her way now, briefly, then adds gently but without sugar-coating it. Peace, that's a different story. The words land heavier than she expects. He doesn't say it like an insult, not like judgment, just fact, like describing the weather. Vivian presses her palm against the curve of the armrest. Her nails drag slightly against the cracked leather. Fair enough, she murmurs. Wasn't really expecting it to be. The corners of Eli's mouth tug upward. Not a smile, something smaller, something quieter. Most people aren't. A log in the fireplace shifts, sends a flurry of sparks upward before settling back into glowing embers. For a moment, neither speaks. Neither needs to. Vivian shifts, uncrosses her legs. Her shoes, impractical against the cold, sit skewed slightly on the mat. A sliver of melted snow pools beneath them. She doesn't bother fixing it, doesn't bother straightening them. Her gaze drifts again to the clock. Still ticking, still defiantly 5 minutes behind the rest of the world. That clock, she says, her tone softer now. I keep thinking someone should fix it. Eli wipes his hands on a dish towel, folds it once, then again. His answer is quiet, almost like he's talking more to himself than to her. Not everything broken needs fixing. The air holds the words, rolls them around, lets them settle. Vivian leans back, lets her head tilt just enough to rest against the worn cushion. Her eyes close not fully, just enough to let the tension bleed out of her jaw, her neck, her shoulders. And for the first time in God, how long has it been, she lets herself simply sit. No expectations, no deliverables, no scripts, no audience. Just here. The fire pops, the clock ticks, the wind brushes against the windows. Eli returns to wiping down the counter, checks a list, adjusts a small potted plant that leans too far toward the window. And Vivian stays seated, quiet, present. Not because she has nowhere else to be, but because suddenly nowhere else feels more important than right here. The snow keeps falling. But the world beyond this quiet cabin, it doesn't freeze. It never does. At 7:03 the next morning, the headlines break. First on financial news sites, then on social media, then everywhere. Vivian Hart ousted as CEO of Meridian Global Holdings in sudden board vote. The push notifications flood phones across the city. Markets react. Stock tickers flash red. But inside the therapy cabin, nothing moves. Nothing trembles. Not yet. Miles away on the 30th floor of a glass tower, a boardroom hums with quiet chaos. Men in tailored suits glance at each other. Some relieved, some nervous, some already calculating their next move. A silver-haired board member clears his throat. Let the record show the vote passes, effective immediately. Another voice, colder. We'll release a statement by 9, make it clean, make it compassionate. A younger exec mutters half under his breath. She should have seen this coming, but no one answers that. Because everyone knows if anyone should have seen this coming, it was her. Meanwhile, at a marble-topped breakfast bar in a penthouse that still technically belongs to her, Vivian stares at her phone. Not blinking, not breathing, just staring. The words are simple, brutal in their simplicity. Board has moved forward with leadership transition. Effective immediately, details to follow, no further comment at this time. She scrolls, photos, headlines, commentary. Is this the end of the Ice Queen era? Sources say the board had been preparing this move for weeks. Markets respond to the shakeup at Meridian Global. Her thumb hovers. Her vision blurs for half a second before snapping back into focus. This isn't how she loses. This isn't supposed to be how anything ends. Her phone buzzes again. A text. Short. From Martin, her former chief operations officer. It's done. You knew it was coming. You should have stayed in the game. She grips the phone so tight her knuckles whiten. The screen almost cracks beneath the pressure. But then something strange happens. Her hand loosens, her shoulders drop. Not out of defeat, not yet, but something quieter. Exhaustion. The kind that has nothing to do with lack of sleep. For the first time in years, the war is quiet. Not over. Not won, but quiet. She stands, walks toward the window. Below the city stretches, skyscrapers gleaming like weapons, traffic crawling, people moving like pieces on a board she no longer controls. Her reflection stares back at her. Sharp suit, perfect hair, but the eyes. For the first time, she doesn't recognize them. She doesn't smash the phone, doesn't scream, doesn't call her lawyer, not yet. Instead, she whispers. Not to anyone, not even to herself, just to the air. I don't have to play this anymore. The sentence floats there, unreal, unfamiliar, but not wrong. A single notification blinks at the top of her screen. Upcoming appointments. One line beneath it. Ridge Haven Therapy, today, 10:00 a.m. Ugh. Her thumb hovers over it. She should cancel, should run, should retaliate, should something. But she doesn't. Vivian Hart, former CEO of a multi-billion-dollar empire, picks up her coat, pulls it over her shoulders, slips on shoes that are absolutely wrong for snow, and steps into the elevator. Not because she has a plan, not because she knows what comes next, but because for reasons she can't quite explain. The only place that makes sense right now is a quiet cabin with a broken clock and a man who folds towels like it's the most sacred work in the world. The tires crunch over frozen gravel as the black SUV pulls into the same small parking lot. Snow from the night before has hardened into a thin crust of ice. The sky is clear now, that sharp winter blue that makes everything look cleaner, colder, quieter. Vivian steps out. No sunglasses this time, no tailored coat. Just a wool sweater, dark jeans, and boots that are finally suited for snow. Her hair is tied back, loose strands escaping in the wind. She stands for a moment. Doesn't move. Doesn't march forward like she did the first time. There is no boardroom to conquer here, no table to control, no vote to sway. Just a small wooden building and a man who by all logic should mean nothing to her, but somehow feels like the only thing tethering her to something real right now. She exhales, watches the breath curl out in front of her before fading into the cold, then steps toward the door. The brass bell jingles softly as it swings open. Eli is behind the counter, folding towels, as always. He doesn't look surprised, doesn't flinch. His hands pause for just a fraction of a second, just long enough to acknowledge her presence, then continue folding. Smooth, precise. His voice is even, steady, not cold, but not warm either. Didn't expect to see you back so soon. Vivian closes the door behind her. Her fingers linger on the handle for a moment as if debating whether to let go. Yeah, she answers quieter than she intended. Neither did I. Silence slips between them again. But it's different now. Less like a wall, more like a question waiting to be answered. She steps forward, not commanding the space, not filling it, just existing in it. Her eyes sweep the room. Nothing has changed. Same worn leather chair, Same clock ticking faithfully 5 minutes slow. Same shelves lined with jars of lavender and peppermint oil. And Eli, always Eli, steady, grounded, moving through the space like someone who has made peace with things other people would have tried to outrun. Vivian pulls her coat tighter around herself, though the cabin is warm. I don't really know why I came back. Her voice cracks at the edges, though she tries to hide it. I guess she swallows. I just didn't know where else to go. Eli finishes folding the towel in his hands, sets it down, then leans slightly against the counter. You hungry? He asks. The question catches her off guard. Simple, uncomplicated. She blinks. What Eli gestures toward the electric kettle behind him. I've got tea, crackers, an apple that's seen better days. A breath escapes her, almost a laugh. No, I'm fine. Eli nods. Doesn't press, doesn't fill the space with empty comfort, just lets it be. Vivian crosses her arms, not defensively, just because she doesn't know what else to do with them. It happened. The words tumble out faster than she expects. The vote. They pushed me out. I'm officially not who I was yesterday. Eli doesn't react. No raised eyebrows, no gasp. Just a quiet, simple reply. I figured. She stares at him. You figured, he shrugs. People don't show up offering $1 million for silence unless something inside them is already breaking. Her mouth opens, closes, no comeback, no defense. Just the truth of it sitting there between them like an open book. I thought I'd feel angry. Her voice softens, or humiliated, or ready to fight. But I don't. I just feel she searches for the word, fails, settles on a whisper, untethered. Eli nods. That's usually what happens when you stop carrying something that was never meant to be yours forever. Her eyes sting. She looks down, pretends it's the cold. Eli steps away from the counter, walks to the window, pulls the curtain back just an inch, looks out at the world beyond, then lets it fall closed again. When he turns back, his voice is quieter. You can stay, as long as you need. No offer, no number, no terms. Vivian doesn't answer right away. Her hands tremble slightly, so she presses them against the seams of her jeans to steady them. Then a single nod. Barely there, but real. She walks over to the same chair as before. Sits down. Not like a queen surveying her kingdom. Not like a general regrouping after battle. Just as a person finally sitting still. The bell above the door jingles softly. A lighter sound this time, smaller. Vivian turns her head instinctively, expecting another client or maybe someone passing by. But it's not. It's a child, a girl, maybe 7, maybe 8, wrapped in a red puffer jacket that's slightly too big with mismatched mittens and boots caked in snow. Her hair's a wild mess of curls escaping from beneath a knit hat decorated with little silver stars. Sophie. She pushes the door shut with 2 small hands, stomps the snow from her boots, and lets out a triumphant little sigh like someone who just conquered something big. Eli glances up, smiles softly. Hey, kiddo. You're early? Sophie grins. Grandma's car was fast today. No stoplights. She marches over to him, hugs his waist without asking, then looks up at the woman sitting quietly in the leather chair. Big brown eyes, curious, unfiltered, the kind of stare only kids know how to hold, unapologetic and honest. Vivian stiffens a little, not because she's annoyed, but because she's not used to being studied like this, not without context, not without agenda. Sophie tips her head. Are you sad? The question slices clean through the air. No warning, no preamble, no filter, just truth. Vivian blinks. Her mouth opens, but no answer comes. Sophie waits, hands on her hips now. Like this is a perfectly reasonable question, and any delay is mildly suspicious. Eli chuckles quietly. Sophie. His voice is gentle but carries a note of subtle warning. But the girl shrugs. What? She looks sad. Her face looks like yours did that day after Mom left. Eli's breath catches for just a second. His eyes flicker toward Vivian, but he says nothing. Doesn't correct. Doesn't explain. Vivian's fingers tighten around the armrest, then loosen. She swallows. Yeah. I guess I am. Sophie steps closer, peers at her like she's inspecting something delicate but confusing. Did someone make you sad, or did you just get tired all of a sudden? Vivian blinks. The words hit harder than she expects. Not because they're cruel, but because somehow they're exactly right. Her voice is quieter now, barely there. I think maybe both. Sophie nods, like that makes perfect sense. Like the world really is just that simple. Yeah, that happens. She kicks one boot against the other, dislodging a chunk of snow. But you look okay. Not broken, just bendy. Eli lets out a breath that's half a laugh, half something heavier. Vivian stares at this child, at the frankness, the simplicity, the strange, miraculous accuracy of it. Not broken, just bendy. Her throat tightens, her eyes sting, but she blinks it back. Barely. Thanks, I think. Sophie grins, shrugs. Dad says bendy things don't snap. They bounce. She turns toward Eli. Can I color in the back? He nods. Go ahead. Crayons are on the shelf. Without another word, Sophie skips off, boots squeaking against the wooden floor, disappearing into the back room with a hum that turns into half a song and half a made-up melody. Silence returns. But it's a different kind of silence now. Lighter, softer, less suffocating. Vivian watches the doorway where Sophie disappeared. Her hands tremble, but not from fear, not from shame, from something else. Something unfamiliar. Hope, maybe. Or the realization that it's not as far away as she thought. Eli shifts behind the counter, doesn't say anything, just lets the moment breathe. Vivian exhales, looks down at her hands, then back at the clock. 5 minutes behind. But maybe for the first time that feels like exactly where she's supposed to be. The fire burns low now. Not in a way that threatens to go out, but steady. Glowing embers more than roaring flames. It casts a soft warmth over the room. Sophie is still in the back, her small voice rising now and then in a made-up song. Crayon strokes whisper against paper. Eli pours hot water into 2 mismatched ceramic mugs. Sets one in front of Vivian. Chamomile. No sugar, no lemon, just simple. She stares at it for a moment before wrapping her hands around the cup. Her fingers absorb the warmth faster than she expected. Faster than she's ready for. Eli settles into the armchair across from her. Not the counter this time. Not standing behind a wall of tasks. Just sitting, present. For a long moment, neither speaks. The silence isn't heavy now, not uncomfortable. It's waiting. Then softly Eli starts. You always been running or just lately? Vivian exhales. A hollow, almost laugh. Feels like always. Her eyes stay on the tea. I can't remember the last time I wasn't trying to outrun something. Expectations, failure, people. She pauses, myself mostly. Eli nods. Not surprised, not judgmental. Yeah, that tracks. She looks up. What about you? Eli leans back, runs a thumb slowly along the chipped armrest of his chair. Used to be somebody else, Someone with different priorities, different life. Vivian tilts her head. Corporate finance, midtown, corner office, the works. Her eyes widen slightly. You're kidding. Eli shakes his head. Nope. 6 figures, international clients, 70-hour weeks, black car service, dry cleaning tags I never took off before wearing them again. A ghost of a smile pulls at her mouth. You don't seem like that guy. He chuckles, a low, dry sound. Yeah, neither do I. He takes a sip of tea. Then one day my daughter got sick, really sick, and I realized I could afford anything except the one thing I actually needed. Vivian's throat tightens. Her hands squeeze the mug a little tighter. And what was that? Eli looks into the fire. His voice softens. Time. Presence. A life that didn't exist in 15-minute calendar slots. The words hang there, heavy. True. He continues slower now. Her mom, she couldn't handle it. The sickness, the stress, the shift in priorities. She left. Said she didn't sign up for the small life. Vivian closes her eyes for a second, breathes it in, breathes it out. She knows that line, knows it far too well. I always told myself I worked that hard so I wouldn't end up like my mother, dependent, invisible, waiting for someone to choose her. She shakes her head. Funny. Turns out I became exactly like my father instead. Eli tilts his head, demanding, distant, obsessed with winning. Her laugh is brittle. Check, check, check. She stares into the fire, her voice lowers. When I took over the company, I thought if I just became undeniable, no one could ever make me feel small or disposable. Eli's eyes soften, and a bitter smile. Turns out you can be undeniable and still be lonely as hell. The fire shifts. Sparks jump, then settle. Eli leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees, his voice quiet but steady. You know some things money can't buy. Vivian glances at him. You mean happiness? He shakes his head. Nah, happiness is overrated. I'm talking about knowing you're safe, that you matter to someone without having to earn it, without having to prove it every damn day. Her breath catches, her fingers flex around the mug. You really think that kind of thing exists? She whispers. Eli meets her gaze, doesn't blink, doesn't flinch. Yeah, I do, but it's not where most people look for it. Vivian looks down at the mug. Steam curls upward. Her reflection warps in the tea's surface, distorted but still recognizably her. Her voice trembles softer than she wants it to be. I wouldn't even know how to start looking for it. Eli's answer is quiet, simple, uncomplicated. Maybe you already have. For a long time, neither speaks. They just sit there breathing in the same air, warmed by the same fire and surrounded by the same small, imperfect world. And for the first time in a long, long while, it feels enough. The fire hums low. Outside, snow flutters in lazy spirals, softer now, like the storm has decided to take a breath. Inside, the quiet shifts. Not heavy. Not strained. Comfortable. Eli leans back in his chair, one ankle resting over his knee. His hands cradle the ceramic mug loosely, like he's held it 1,000 times before. Vivian runs her thumb slowly along the rim of her cup. Her shoulders lower, her jaw softer now. No armor, no posture, just her. For a while they don't say anything. They don't need to. Then Eli breaks the silence, his tone easy, almost teasing. You know, if someone had told me 10 years ago I'd end up trading a corner office for folding towels, I'd have laughed them right out of the building. Vivian smirks. And if someone told me I'd voluntarily sit in a cabin this small, drinking chamomile tea without a single board member in sight, I'd have called security. Eli chuckles, deep and honest. Life's funny that way. She nods. Yeah, it is. Her gaze drifts toward the window, watching the flakes fall. You walked away by choice. I got shoved out. Eli's smile fades, but not into sadness, into understanding. Both roads still end up here. Vivian's fingers tighten around her cup. I used to think slowing down meant failing, that stepping back was the same as giving up. Eli shifts, resting his elbows on his knees. Yeah, I used to think peace was for people who couldn't handle the climb. He lets that settle. Turns out peace is the climb. Vivian stares at him. No comeback, no defense, just stillness. Her voice lowers, softer, honest in a way that surprises even her. I spent my entire adult life building something that looks impressive from the outside. You know, marble floors, glass walls, titles that sound important. Eli nods. I know the type. Built those too once. She chuckles. A real one. Yeah, but no one tells you that the higher you build, the less it feels like home. His eyes soften. Nope. No one tells you that part. The fire pops, sending sparks into the air before settling back into glowing orange. Vivian leans back, lets her head rest against the cushion. You know, for the longest time I thought people like you were wasting potential. Eli grins, not offended in the slightest. Yeah, I used to think people like you were exhausting. She laughs. Really laughs. Head tilted back, eyes closed. A sound she hasn't heard from herself in years. Maybe decades. The sound surprises both of them. When she catches her breath, Vivian shakes her head, wiping the corner of her eye. God, what a pair we are. Eli raises his mug in a small salute. Different roads, same quiet. A comfortable silence follows. No pressure to fill it, just existing in the same space. Vivian glances at him, quieter now. Do you ever regret it? He doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he watches the flame shift. Some days I miss the ease. Swipe a card, solve a problem. Wire a payment, make something disappear. He pauses, but then Lily runs up and hugs me, or I help someone walk out of here feeling lighter than when they came in. He turns to her, and no, I don't regret it, not for a second. She holds his gaze, her lips pressed together, but it isn't tension. It's something softer. I wonder if I ever even knew what enough felt like. Eli tilts his head. Maybe that's what you're figuring out now. Vivian glances down at the tea in her hands. The surface still ripples slightly from her own breath. For the first time, the idea of enough doesn't feel like losing. It feels like freedom. A sudden stillness, it's subtle. So subtle that for a few moments neither of them notices. The fire continues its soft, steady crackle. Sophie's quiet hum floats in from the back room, half a song, half a daydream. But then something shifts. Eli's head tilts. His brows pull together just slightly. He glances toward the far wall, toward the clock. The ticking. Gone. Vivian doesn't notice it at first. Not until Eli stands. Walks over. Stares at the wooden pendulum behind the glass pane, now perfectly still. No sway, no rhythm, no sound, just stopped. Vivian's gaze follows him, puzzled. What is it? Eli taps the glass lightly. Nothing. He opens the small brass latch, nudges the pendulum gently. It wobbles, then halts again. A quiet sigh leaves his mouth. Not frustration, not irritation, something more like recognition. It's done. His voice is soft, matter of fact. Vivian rises, walks over, stands beside him. For a moment, neither looks at the clock. Both just look at the stillness inside it. Did it break? She asks. Eli shakes his head. No, just stopped. It does that sometimes. She frowns. Doesn't that bother you? His fingers trace the edge of the wooden frame, worn smooth from years of touch. It used to. Not anymore. Vivian stares at the frozen hands, the minute hand suspended between numbers like it got tired mid-step. Something about it unsettles her, and yet settles her at the same time. Feels weird, she murmurs. The silence. Eli nods. Yeah, but it's honest. Time doesn't really stop, but sometimes it waits for you to catch up. Her breath catches. She hadn't expected that. For a long moment, they both just stand there, watching a clock that no longer tells them where they should be. Vivian lifts her fingers, presses them lightly to the glass. It's strange, she whispers. My whole life, everything's been about time. Deadlines, quarters, earnings reports, flights, meetings. Always the next thing, the next hour, the next win. Her fingers trail downward, stopping at the brass keyhole near the base. And now her voice falters. It feels quiet. Too quiet. Eli glances at her. His voice is steady, or maybe it's the first real quiet you've ever heard. She swallows, hard. In the stillness, something starts to unravel, not in a way that feels like breaking, more like shedding. She steps back, crosses her arms, not defensive, just grounding herself. Doesn't it bother you, she asks again. Living like this, no schedule, no chase, no clock. Eli tilts his head. Thinks, really thinks. Then shrugs gently. Sometimes, but I traded noise for peace, and turns out peace keeps better. Vivian stares at the clock again, the hands frozen at 4:17. Part of her wants to reach in, wind it, fix it, make it move, prove something, anything. But another part, the quieter part, the part she usually ignores, doesn't want to. Because for the first time it feels like permission. Permission to stop, to be still, to breathe. Her lips part. But the words don't come. Because there aren't any. There's just this. A clock that no longer ticks. A fire that still burns. And two people who suddenly understand that not every broken thing needs to be mended. Some things are meant to pause. The snow has stopped. The world outside feels suspended, like the quiet after a storm. Vivian sits at the small table near the window, fingers curled loosely around a cup of now cold tea. She doesn't mind. Cold tea feels fitting. Eli moves quietly behind the counter, refilling jars, straightening shelves. The clock on the wall remains still, silent, its hands frozen where they decided to stop. Neither of them has touched it. Then a sound, tires crunching over ice, a car. Not the kind that belongs to this place. Not a local pickup truck, not a delivery van. Something heavier, sleeker. Eli looks up, his eyes narrow but his face stays calm. Vivian turns toward the window. A black sedan, glossy, polished, out of place among the frost-covered cabins and gravel lots. The driver's door opens and out steps Martin, impeccably dressed, tailored coat, shined shoes already dusted with snow. A man designed for conference rooms, not winter roads. Vivian stiffens, her hands curl into fists against her thighs. Eli watches quietly, doesn't move. The brass bell above the door chimes, a sharper sound this time, less soft, less welcome. Martin steps inside, brushing snow from his shoulders like it personally offended him. His eyes sweep the room, land on Vivian. His smile is tight, too polished, too practiced. Well, this is unexpected. Vivian doesn't stand, doesn't move. Her voice stays even. You found me. Martin chuckles, shaking his head. Vivian, come on. Did you really think the board wouldn't figure it out? The press is already circling, investors are nervous. Eli steps out from behind the counter, calm, present, not hostile, but unmistakably a barrier. Martin notices, his brow lifts. And who's this? His gaze flickers over Eli, dismissive, evaluative. Your therapist Eli doesn't flinch. Owner, this is private property. His voice is calm, steady, but the undertone isn't negotiable. Martin waves it off. Relax. I'm not here to cause a scene. I'm here because she needs to hear the reality. He turns back to Vivian, steps closer. The narrative's slipping, Viv. People are asking questions, headlines are brewing. Former CEO hiding in some backwoods massage shack while her company burns. His smile tightens. Not exactly the legacy you want, is it? Vivian exhales slowly. Her fingers tap the side of her mug. Once, twice. Let them write what they want, she says. But the tremor in her voice betrays her. Martin tilts his head. This isn't you. This, he gestures around the cabin. The wooden walls, the quiet, the stillness. This isn't who you are. You don't get to vanish. You don't get to disappear. You built an empire. Empires don't forgive silence. Eli watches him. Still but not passive. A stillness that feels solid, like a mountain deciding not to move. Martin presses forward. The board wants a statement. The press wants a photo. Investors need reassurance. You know how this works. If you don't control the story, someone else will write it for you. Vivian's eyes flicker toward the frozen clock, the minute hand stuck between numbers. Her reflection caught in the glass, and suddenly the noise that used to feel familiar feels suffocating. Why her voice is quieter now, not shaky, not afraid, just tired. Why are you really here, Martin? He stiffens, but only slightly, because I spent 10 years cleaning up your messes, holding your line, fighting your fights, and now you're walking away like it was all disposable, a beat. You didn't come here for the board, Vivian says softly. You came because if I stop playing, the game collapses, and you don't know who you are without it. Silence, heavy, thick. Martin's jaw tightens. For the first time, his smile cracks. Just a little. Be careful, Viv. You think you can just sit this one out. It doesn't work that way. The world keeps moving. Vivian stands slowly, straightens her sweater. Steps toward him, not like a CEO, not like a fighter, just a woman. Tired, clear. Maybe it's time it moves without me. Martin scoffs. Turns, good luck with that. He yanks the door open. The cold bites into the room. The clock's still ticking whether you hear it or not. Then he's gone. The door swings shut. The bell trembles. Silence returns. Eli doesn't speak, just walks over. Gently refills her cup with fresh tea. Vivian stares at the steam rising. Her fingers tremble, but not from fear. Something else now. A choice. The cabin is quiet again, but it's not the same quiet as before. This one hums differently, not peaceful, not chaotic, something heavier, more personal. Vivian walks down the narrow hallway, past the bookshelf, past the framed sketches of trees, mountains, and rivers. Her boots scuff lightly against the wooden floor. At the very end of the hallway, a small bathroom. Simple, plain, white tiles. A single frosted window letting in the soft blue of winter light. And there above the sink hangs a mirror. She stands in front of it, but doesn't look up. Not yet. Her fingers grip the edge of the sink knuckles, pale. She stares at the porcelain, watches a drop of water slide down the chrome faucet. For a few seconds, or maybe a lifetime, she just breathes. Then slowly her gaze rises. And there she is. Not Vivian Hart, CEO. Not the billionaire, not the headline, not the boardroom warrior, not the myth. Just her. For a moment, she doesn't even recognize the reflection. Gone is the power suit, the structured jacket, the perfectly framed hair, the layers of makeup designed to sharpen jawlines and soften weaknesses. What's left is unsettling. A woman, 46, tired, brilliant, scared, and maybe for the first time in decades honest. She studies the lines at the corners of her eyes, the faint scar near her temple one no one ever notices under foundation. The way her mouth naturally presses into a line even when she isn't thinking about it. Her fingers trail up, brush the loose strand of hair falling across her cheek, so she whispers, "This is me. No performance, no armor, no control." Her throat tightens, eyes sting but not from sadness, not fully. Something more complicated, grief. For the years she spent being someone else, relief, that the performance might finally be over. Fear of what comes next. And beneath all of it, something like hope. A quiet voice inside asking, who could you be if you stopped trying to be everything else? Her hand presses flat against the mirror. Cold glass against warm skin. The reflection meets her gaze not harsh, not judgmental, just waiting. Waiting for her to decide who steps away from this mirror. For years this face was a tool, a weapon, a brand. She shaped it, sculpted it, used it, protected it, hid behind it. Now it's just a face, her face. And for the first time she lets herself see it. A tear slides down. She doesn't wipe it away, doesn't flinch from it. Instead she lets it fall. There's power in that. A different kind of power, not the power of winning, not the power of conquering, but the power of surrender, of choosing to begin again. Her voice cracks, but she says it anyway. You are still here. A pause, a breath, and that is enough. The clock in the hallway still frozen, still silent. But for the first time, the silence feels right. Vivian turns from the mirror, walks back toward the soft light of the living room, back toward the smell of tea, the sound of fire, the steady presence of someone who saw her long before she remembered how to see herself. She doesn't know what happens next. She doesn't need to, because for the first time in her life, standing still isn't failure. It's freedom. The fire crackles, softer now, softer than before. Vivian sits cross-legged on the old leather sofa. One hand cradles a fresh cup of tea. The other rests on her knee fingers, tapping a rhythm she doesn't notice. Eli sits across from her, calm, still, watching but not in a way that makes her shrink, in a way that makes her breathe. For a while, neither speaks. The silence isn't heavy, it's thoughtful. Then quietly, Vivian asks, "Can I ask you something?" Eli nods once. "Yeah?" She stares into her cup, swirls the tea like it might spell an answer, then lifts her gaze, meets his eyes. "If you lost everything, everything you built, everything that defined you, if it all vanished," her voice trembles but holds, "what would be left?" The words land heavy between them, no theatrics, no drama. Just a question shaped like a knife. Eli doesn't answer right away, doesn't rush. He leans back slightly, fingers steeple beneath his chin. His eyes don't move from hers. Then slowly he says it. Me. A simple word, but it hits like thunder. Vivian's brows pull together. Her lips part, but no words come. Eli continues steady. "If I lose the job, the house, the titles, the paycheck, the reputation, the routine." He taps his chest right over his heart. "This stays. Me. The man who sings to his daughter when she's scared. The hands that help people carry weight they forgot they were holding. The voice that says you're safe here. He pauses, lets it breathe, lets it sink. Everything else is noise. Vivian's throat tightens. Her grip on the cup falters just for a second. But without the roles, without the identity, her voice fractures. Aren't you nothing? Eli's head tilts. His smile is soft, but firm. That's the lie they sell us. That we are what we build, what we own, what we win. He leans forward, elbows on his knees. But the truth, you strip all that away and what's left is the only thing that ever mattered. He gestures around the room, to the worn rug, to the clock still frozen on the wall, to the crayons scattered on the floor from Sophie's earlier masterpiece. This, showing up, being seen, seeing others, that's it. That's the whole game. Vivian stares at him, like he just told her the world isn't round after all. Her voice drops to barely a whisper. I don't know if I have anything left under it all. Eli doesn't flinch, doesn't rush to soothe her, doesn't offer platitudes, just says the quiet thing. Then maybe this is where you start finding out. The words don't sting, they don't shame, they unlock. Vivian exhales, long, slow, like someone releasing a breath they didn't know they were holding for years. Her eyes flicker toward the clock again. Still, silent, and maybe for the first time she realizes it isn't broken. It's waiting, waiting for her. Morning light creeps through the frosted windows. Pale, thin, the kind of light that feels honest even when you don't want it to be. Vivian sits at the small kitchen table. A chipped ceramic mug warms her hands. Her phone face down sits beside it. She hasn't touched it since last night, since before. Eli moves quietly in the background, cooking something simple. Eggs, toast. The smell is grounding. Ordinary, but ordinary feels foreign. Vivian stares at the wood grain of the table, counts the tiny scratches, wonders how long it took them to get there, wonders how many years of living it takes for something to look worn but loved. Then the phone buzzes, not once, not a spam notification, not an email, a sustained, deliberate vibration. She doesn't pick it up, not right away, just stares, as if the screen might catch fire if she touches it. Eli glances over, quiet, doesn't say anything, doesn't push, just lets her sit with it. The buzzing stops. A breath, then it buzzes again, longer this time. Her fingers move before her brain does. She flips it over, the screen lights up. A single text. From Martin. 2 words, cold, precise, final. It's done. Below it a forwarded email. Her name, her title, crossed out, board decision, unanimous, effective immediately. No meeting, no conversation, no fight, just gone. Her thumb hovers over the screen, scrolls, reads it again and again, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less real. But they don't. Eli steps closer, silent, steady. He doesn't look at the phone, doesn't ask. He already knows. Vivian's jaw tightens. Her eyes burn, but no tears come. Not yet. Her voice is thin, barely there. It's real. Eli nods. Quiet. Yeah. She laughs. A brittle, sharp thing. All those years, all those deals. The hours, the sacrifices, the wins, her fingers tremble. And this is how it ends. A text. Eli leans against the counter, folds his arms. That's how it always ends. You just never believe it until it happens to you. She grips the phone, wants to throw it, wants to smash it against the wall. But her fingers won't move, because under the rage, under the humiliation is something worse. Emptiness. She whispers it. I don't exist to them anymore. Eli's voice stays calm. No, you never did. She flinches, looks up at him. What he steps forward, pulls out the chair across from her. Sits, meets her eyes, no softness, no cruelty, just truth. You existed for what you could do, for what you could produce, for how you made them feel about their own money, their own power. You were useful. He taps the table, and now you're not. To them. A beat, then softer. But that's not the same as not existing. The words hit, harder than any headline, any press leak. Vivian stares at him, breath shaking. Then who am I without it? Eli holds her gaze, steady, unflinching. That Vivian is the best question you've asked in 20 years. Silence, a different kind now. Not the silence of endings, the silence of a beginning. The sky turns from pale gray to soft indigo. Outside, the snow catches the last bit of light glowing like quiet embers scattered across the ground. Inside, it smells like butter and garlic, and something sweet baking low in the oven. Eli moves between the stove and the tiny table, setting out mismatched plates. Sophie hums from the corner, coloring half on the paper, half on the table itself. Vivian stands awkwardly by the doorway for a moment, watching, unsure, unpracticed. This isn't her world, not boardrooms, not gala dinners, not precision and performance. Just a small table, a man, a child, 3 plates, no centerpiece, no linen napkins, no deals being made, just dinner. Eli glances over, nods once. You can sit, you know. His voice is casual, but something in it opens a door she didn't know she was waiting in front of. Vivian steps forward, pulls out a chair. The legs scrape softly against the worn wood floor. She lowers herself down, hands folded, unsure where to put them, unsure what this version of her even does. Sophie looks up, grins. Do you like spaghetti? Dad makes it, but he always forgets the sauce is spicy. Eli chuckles. It's not spicy, you just think pepper is spicy. Pepper is spicy. Sophie declares, utterly confident in her small, unshakable truth. Vivian's lips twitch. Not quite a smile, but close. Closer than she's been in longer than she can remember. Eli sets down a bowl in front of each of them. Simple spaghetti, a bit of garlic bread. Steam rises, nothing complicated, nothing curated. Sophie dives in with the focus of someone who knows exactly what matters right now. Eli sits, glances at Vivian, quietly, gently. You okay with this? She looks down at the food, at the chipped plate, at the folded paper towel instead of linen, at the tiny cup of water set beside it, and something inside her softens. She nods. Yeah, I think I am. A silence follows, but not awkward, not empty, just space. Space to chew, space to breathe, space to exist. Halfway through, Sophie pauses, looks up. Her face is smeared with a tiny bit of sauce. Miss Vivian blinks. Yeah, Sophie twirls her fork. Are you sad 'cause you lost your job? The question lands soft, not sharp, not invasive, just honest. Vivian puts her fork down, breathes, looks at Eli, then back at Sophie. Yeah, I think I am. A pause. Then, but also maybe I'm not. Sophie nods. Dad says sometimes losing something means you get space for something better. Vivian's throat tightens. She blinks fast. Yeah, he's right. Eli doesn't say anything. Doesn't need to. They eat. Together. No rush. No agenda. And as the plates empty, something strange happens. Vivian laughs. Not a boardroom laugh. Not a presentation laugh. A real one. Small. A little rusty, but real. And Eli smiles. Quiet. Like a man watching someone remember how to breathe. Later, as the dishes pile in the sink and Sophie begins carefully arranging her crayons back into the wrong boxes, Vivian stands, watches them, this little cabin, this little life. No wealth here, no power here, no applause, but warmth and presence, and maybe enough. For the first time, the idea doesn't feel like settling, it feels like coming home. Night settles deep over the cabin. Outside, snow falls again, softer this time, slow, gentle, like the world itself is exhaling. Inside, the fire burns low, flickering, steady. A quiet heartbeat for the room. Sophie's asleep, her tiny form curled on the pull-out sofa, her stuffed bear tucked under her chin. The quiet rise and fall of her breathing fills the space like the smallest, sweetest song. Vivian sits by the window, wrapped in an old quilt, knees pulled to her chest. Eli's in the kitchen washing the last of the dishes, the clink of ceramic, the rush of water, then silence. He dries his hands, glances toward her, watches, waits, doesn't interrupt, doesn't offer empty comfort, because some storms aren't meant to be fixed, just witnessed. Vivian stares out at the snow. Her breath fogs the window, then fades. Over and over, then quietly her shoulders shake. At first it's small, almost nothing, just a tremor, a fault line quietly cracking open. Then her hands press to her face, her breath stutters, and something gives. The sound escapes before she can stop it. A sob, harsh, raw, unapologetic, not the elegant tears of disappointment, not the tight, contained grief of losing a deal. This is deeper, older, the kind of grief that doesn't know language, the kind that lives in bones, in memory. Her whole body curls in, hands gripping her knees, shoulders trembling. And it comes, wave after wave, years, maybe decades of holding it together, of showing up, of performing, of carrying it all of it spills. Eli steps forward, quiet, careful, not to fix, not to rush, just to be near. He sits, not too close, not too far, just enough, doesn't touch her, doesn't offer words, just presence. Because sometimes that's the only thing that matters. Vivian presses her forehead to her knees. Breath jagged, her voice breaks between the sobs. I don't know who I am without it. Eli answers, quiet, steady, I know. Another sob, sharper. I gave everything, and for what? For them to erase me with a text, her fists slam weakly against her knees. I don't matter. Eli shakes his head, not harsh, not corrective, just firm. You do. You always did. You just forgot. Her voice crumbles. I don't know how to be anything else. A pause, a breath. Then maybe Eli says softly, this is where you start learning. Vivian lifts her head, just barely, her face blotched, eyes swollen. No elegance left, no CEO, no billion-dollar mask, just a woman, cracked open. For the first time in a very long time, she lets someone see her exactly as she is. And he doesn't flinch, doesn't turn away, doesn't leave. Eli leans forward. His voice is low, steady, anchored. You don't have to climb anything tonight. You don't have to fix anything, or prove anything, or be anything. A pause. The fire pops softly. You just have to breathe. Vivian closes her eyes, her shoulders tremble, but slowly, her breath steadies, not perfect, not clean, not wrapped in a bow, but real. Her hands loosen, her jaw softens, her back slowly unfolds. She leans, not much, just enough. Enough to let her shoulder brush against his, and Eli stays. Solid, steady, quiet. The fire hums, the snow falls, and somewhere between the breaths and the tears and the quiet, a truth begins to grow. When the armor falls, the person remains. Morning comes slow, no alarm. No conference calls, no flights to catch, just light, soft, pale gold slipping through the cracks of the curtains. Vivian stirs, blinks. For a second she forgets where she is, then remembers the cabin, the fire, the night and what broke open inside her. But something feels different, the pressure in her chest lighter, the weight behind her eyes softer. She slips out of the warm quilt, bare feet hit cold wooden floors. A shiver, not unpleasant, just real. Eli's not in sight. She hears faint sounds, muffled laughter, a pan clinking, Sophie's voice trailing off into a half-sung, half-invented song. Vivian moves toward the front door. Fingers brush the latch, pushes it open, and breath catches. The storm is gone. The snow still blankets everything, thick, clean, pure. But the sky is wide open. Clear blue stretches from one end of the horizon to the other. The air is crisp, sharp enough to bite, but so clean it feels like drinking water through your skin. The world is still, not empty, not lonely. Still, her boots crunch softly as she steps onto the small wooden porch. Her arms fold over herself, but not out of defense, just holding this moment. For a while she doesn't move, doesn't think, just stands. Watches the way sunlight catches on icicles hanging from the eaves. Listens to the faint drip, drip, drip as they melt. A single bird calls from the treetops. Its voice sounds impossibly loud in this vast, perfect quiet. And for the first time in maybe her entire life, she realizes this is what peace feels like. Not a reward, not a finish line, not something earned after enough wins, just here, just available. Vivian tilts her face toward the sun, closes her eyes, breathes in, slow, full. For years, the only kind of air she ever knew was recycled office vents, plane cabins, hotel lobbies, the air of movement, of chase. This is different. This air feels like it belongs to her. The snow crunches behind her. She turns. Eli steps out, 2 mugs in hand, offers one without a word. She takes it, the ceramic warm against her palms, the steam curling upward, smells like cinnamon and something else softer. They stand together, not touching, not needing to, just sharing the same square of sunlight on a cold wooden porch. Eli's voice comes low, steady. Storm's over. Vivian nods. Yeah, her voice surprises her, calm, clear, like it belongs to someone lighter. They fall into quiet again, watching as the wind stirs powdery snow off the branches, watching as tiny avalanches slip from rooftops. Vivian glances sideways. Is it always like this after Eli thinks? Shrugs. Never exactly the same, but yeah, something like this. She holds the mug tighter. A smile pulls at the corner of her mouth. Small, but real. Her gaze shifts toward the tree line, where the world stretches out, open, unmapped. For the first time, she doesn't feel like she's falling. She feels like she's landing. The kitchen smells like toasted bread and something sweet. Maybe honey, maybe vanilla. Vivian sits at the small wooden table, one hand curled around a mug, the other resting on a blank sheet of paper. A pen waits. Quiet, heavy in its own way. Sophie hums in the background, half building, half destroying a tower of wooden blocks. Eli moves between the stove and the sink, calm, grounded, as always. But the world inside Vivian no longer feels like the same place. For a moment, her fingers just trace the edges of the paper. No pressure, no rush, just space. A space where something new could begin. Her breath shakes, not out of fear, not fully. More like standing at the edge of something she's never dared to consider. She lifts the pen, lets it hover, then lowers it again. Not yet. Eli glances over. Doesn't ask, doesn't push, just watches, waits. Because he knows. This isn't a decision you speak before you're ready to hear it yourself. Vivian stares out the window. Watches as snow slides from the edge of the roof. Watches as the sunlight glints off the icicles. Her voice comes soft. Careful. I can't go back. Eli doesn't blink, doesn't flinch. I know. She turns toward him, meets his eyes. Even if I could, even if the board begged, even if every headline reversed itself, I couldn't. Eli nods. Yeah, I figured. Her hands press flat to the table. Because if I went back, it wouldn't be me going back. It'd be a ghost. A shell. Her voice trembles. I can't pretend anymore. I won't. Eli leans against the counter, crosses his arms, his gaze steady. So what? Now? The question lands like a seed. Quiet, small, but full of possibility. Vivian breathes. Slow. Deep. Looks back at the paper. I don't know exactly. A pause, but I think it starts with building something that doesn't need me to wear armor to exist. Her fingers tighten, something honest. Small maybe, but real. Eli tilts his head. Real how her eyes flicker. Sharpen. Not the old sharpness, the corporate blade. Something else. Something clearer. I spent my whole life teaching people how to climb, how to win, how to take. She swallows. I never taught anyone how to breathe, how to rest, how to belong. Eli's smile curves. Slow. That sounds like a better empire than the last one. Vivian lets out a breath that sounds dangerously close to a laugh. Yeah, maybe it is. She looks down, finally, picks up the pen, and writes the first line. Not a 5-year growth plan, not an acquisition target, not a speech, just 3 words. It starts here. The ink dries fast, permanent. She stares at it. Something shifts. Sophie looks up from the floor. What are you doing? Vivian turns, her voice soft, warm in a way she's never heard from herself before. I'm making a map to where Vivian smiles. Really smiles. Someplace I've never been. Sophie nods, like that makes perfect sense. Cool. Eli crosses the room, sets a fresh cup of tea beside her hand, doesn't say a word, just places it there, a quiet offering, a silent agreement. The world might still expect her to be the woman she was, but she isn't. Not anymore, and for the first time. That isn't terrifying. It's freedom. The fire hums low. Outside, the snow has softened, melted slightly under the touch of afternoon sun. The edges of the world feel less sharp. Inside, the air holds something different, a kind of quiet but not emptiness, more like anticipation. Eli kneels by the old wall clock, fingers working carefully, gently, like mending something more fragile than wood or brass. Vivian watches from the sofa, a mug in her hands, legs tucked beneath her, not tense, not braced, just still. Sophie crouches nearby, her chin resting on her knees, eyes wide, curious. Is it broken? Eli doesn't answer right away. His hands move with practiced patience, loosening a small screw, tilting the glass open, nudging the pendulum, testing, listening. Nah, he finally says, just stuck. His thumb brushes dust from a tiny brass gear. Things do that sometimes. Vivian tilts her head, watching the way his fingers steady the mechanism, the way he leans close listening to something most people never bother to hear. What made it stop, she asks. Eli's lips curve, just a little. Same thing that stops most things. A pause, neglect or too much weight. A quiet hum fills the room, not mechanical, not sound. More the kind of hum that happens when something important is about to shift. Eli adjusts one final screw, taps the pendulum, nothing, taps it again. A slow sway back, forth, back. And then the smallest sound. Tick, tick, tick. The second hand trembles, then jerks forward, a tiny stubborn leap back into motion. Sophie claps her hands, whispering like she might scare it. It's working. Vivian exhales. Didn't realize she was holding her breath. Her fingers tighten around the mug. Eli leans back, wipes his palms on his jeans, watches the clock for a beat longer as if making sure. Then nods. Satisfied. There it is. Vivian stares at the moving hands, the steady rhythmic tick filling the room. Not loud, not demanding, just present. Her voice is soft. It's strange. Eli glances over. What is that sound used to make me anxious? Deadlines. Time slipping away. Never enough. Always chasing. Her thumb brushes the rim of her cup, but right now it doesn't feel like that. Eli nods, leans back against the wall, wipes dust from his fingers. Yeah, a beat. Sometimes when you stop running, time stops chasing. The three of them sit in silence. The kind that isn't heavy anymore. The kind that feels earned. The clock ticks. Slow. Steady. Sure. Vivian's eyes stay on it. The hands moving. The pendulum swaying. Proof that forward isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's 1 second at a time. She whispers it. Barely a sound. I think I'm ready. Eli hears it, but doesn't push for more. Just lets it sit. Vivian looks down at Sophie, smiles, and Sophie grins. I've been ready since forever. Eli chuckles. Yeah, that tracks. The clock keeps ticking, the fire keeps humming. And somewhere in the simple rhythm of seconds, something broken isn't broken anymore. Not because it was forced, not because it was rushed, but because someone cared enough to stay, to listen, to hold space until it was ready to move again. The ladder wobbles slightly beneath Eli's boots, but he doesn't mind. One hand steadies the wooden beam above the doorway. The other grips a cordless drill. The wind is sharp this morning, but the sky's clear, clean. As if the snowstorm had scrubbed everything, even the past, right out of the air. Vivian stands below, hands in her coat pockets, watching, waiting. A small wooden sign rests against her leg, freshly painted. Simple block letters, no logos, no branding, just a sentence. You can't buy presents, but you can find it. Eli glances down, grins. Sure about this? Vivian tips her head, smiles. Yeah, I'm sure, no hesitation, no doubt, not anymore. Eli lines up the sign, drives the first screw into the wood. The drill hums against the quiet. Then another screw, then the last. He steps down, dusts his hands off. Both of them stand there, shoulder to shoulder, looking up. The sign sways gently in the breeze. The sunlight catches the edges of the letters, makes them glow just a little. Vivian folds her arms, breathes, deep, steady. It's strange, she says quietly. All the years I spent building things, chasing things, and this, her voice softens. This might be the first thing that actually feels true. Eli nods. Doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. Sophie bolts out the front door, nearly slips on a patch of ice, catches herself, then beams up at the sign. It's up, she cheers. Her arms stretch wide like the sky itself might need a hug. Vivian laughs. A real one. Full, open, not the kind she ever used in boardrooms. Sophie tugs her coat sleeve. Can I help today? I can set up the yoga mats, or sweep, or make the welcome tea. Eli chuckles. You've just promoted yourself to assistant manager. Sophie beams. Proud, I accept. The three of them stand there, just taking it in. The little center, nothing fancy, just a cabin, really. Warm light spills from the windows. Inside, stacks of blankets, a kettle waiting, a table covered in crayons and mismatched mugs. Outside, the world keeps spinning. The news cycles, the stock markets, the noise. But here, this tiny slice of earth holds something different. Something quieter, something slower, something real. Vivian slips her hands from her pockets, runs her fingertips along the edge of the wooden frame. Her breath fogs in the morning air. "Do you think anyone will come?" she asks. Eli turns to her, his smile soft. "Certain, yeah, the ones who need to." She nods. Lets that sink. Not everyone, not the masses, not crowds chasing the next fix. Just the ones ready to stop running, ready to come home to themselves. For a long moment, none of them speak. The wind shifts, carries the smell of pine, the sound of birds calling from the treetops, and the soft, steady creak of the new sign swaying above the door. Vivian whispers it, barely more than breath. It starts here. Eli glances at her, nods. Yeah, it does. The sun hangs higher now, not warm exactly, but generous enough to melt thin rivulets of snow down the cabin steps. Vivian sits on the front porch, legs crossed, a paper plate balanced on her knees, half a grilled cheese, a handful of kettle chips. Next to her, Eli, boots scuffed, forearms resting on his thighs, quiet, steady. His own sandwich disappearing slowly between sips of coffee from an old metal thermos. Sophie sprawled on the top step, swinging her legs, cheeks flushed, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in both hands like she's holding the entire universe. No silverware, no tablecloth, no polished dining set, just the three of them, a step, a sky, and time. They eat mostly in silence, but not the heavy kind, not the guarded kind, the kind of silence that feels like belonging. Then the crunch of tires over gravel. Vivian glances up, heart ticking a little faster. A car, older, pale blue paint faded by weather. It rolls to a gentle stop in front of the cabin. For a beat, no one gets out. Sophie leans forward, whispering like a secret. "Is that them?" Eli nods. "Looks like." The driver door opens. A woman steps out, mid-50s. Her coat hangs a little loose on her frame. Her hands fidget with the strap of her purse. She doesn't rush, doesn't stride forward like she owns the ground. Instead, she stands, looking at the sign, reading it. Twice. You can't buy presents, but you can find it. Her lips press together, her eyes shine, just for a second. Then the passenger door opens. A man, maybe late 60s, moves slower. One hand braces his lower back, but his step steady, determined. Vivian's fingers tighten slightly on her plate. Eli doesn't move, just watches. Calm, like he's seen this before, like he understands that the hardest part is the first 10 steps towards something new. Sophie whispers. They look nervous. Vivian nods. Soft. "Yeah, I think everyone is the first time." Another car pulls in, then another, a younger woman this time, early 30s. A laptop bag slung over her shoulder like a shield. Her eyes flick around like someone waiting to be told she doesn't belong. Then a man, late 40s, tall, worn boots. His hands stay stuffed deep in his jacket pockets, like he's trying to hold himself together by sheer force. They don't come in all at once. They linger by their cars, read the sign, check their phones, look toward the cabin, then away. Like maybe they're giving themselves one last chance to back out. But none of them do. One by one, steps crunch over gravel. Feet climb the worn wooden stairs. The door opens. Not dramatic, not grand. Just open. Vivian feels it, deep in her chest, the click of that door, the first hello, the tentative smiles, the way shoulders soften just a little when someone says you're in the right place. Sophie beams, swings her legs harder. They came. Eli grins. Told you. Vivian lets out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding since sunrise. Her smile stretches slow. Honest. Yeah, she murmurs. They did. No ribbon cutting, no press release, no announcement to the world, just this. People. Showing up. Stepping out of old stories, walking towards something different. The grilled cheese forgotten. The chips growing cold. Vivian watches them. Each face, each hesitant step forward. And for the first time, she isn't measuring their worth by what they've done, by what they've built, by how the world sees them. She's just glad they came, glad they chose to begin. The wind shifts, carries the faint scent of pine, the promise of something more. Eli nudges her shoulder, quiet, warm. You did this, you know. Vivian doesn't look away from the door. No, she says softly. We did. The porch settles back into silence. 3 people, a shared sandwich. Watching as the first seeds of a new life take root. Evening settles in, not sudden, not sharp, just gentle. Like a heavy quilt pulled slowly over the sky. The snow hasn't started falling again, but the clouds promise it will. Soon. Inside the cabin, warm light spills from the windows. A golden glow against the deepening blue of the world beyond. Out on the front porch, 3 figures sit close. No words. Just the quiet creak of old wood beneath them. The soft hum of wind through pine branches. Sophie leans against Eli's shoulder. Her eyes heavy but still fighting sleep. One hand wrapped around the last bite of a sugar cookie that's long since crumbled. Eli stretches his legs, hands folded across his stomach. His gaze steady, watching the way the light from the window dances across the snow. Vivian sits to his left, knees pulled to her chest, chin resting on her arms, breath curling into soft clouds that vanish as quickly as they come. For a long while they don't speak, they don't need to. Inside voices drift, laughter, the scrape of chairs, the soft clink of mugs being set down. People, new faces, some hesitant, some already beginning to relax, but all of them here. All of them choosing something different, something slower, something real. Vivian's eyes lift, drift toward the small porch light above the door. It glows steady, quiet, no flicker, no fanfare, just on. Like a promise, like a reminder. No matter how dark the night gets, there's always some place still lit. Eli shifts slightly, not enough to break the moment. Just enough for his voice to find her. Look at that. Vivian follows his gaze. Out past the driveway, past the tree line. Tiny footprints in the snow, leading toward the road, leading back toward lives now slightly changed. She watches them fade slowly beneath a new dusting of white. Sophie's voice floats up, soft, sleepy. Do you think they'll come back? Eli glances down, smiles. Yeah, kiddo, I think the right ones will. Vivian turns toward him, her voice quiet. Sure, and maybe some new ones too. A beat, then the first snowflake falls, then another and another, soft, silent, steady. The porch light catches them as they drift, makes them glow, makes the air shimmer. The 3 of them sit, watching, breathing, not filling the space, not forcing it, just being in it. The camera pulls back, slowly. The light grows smaller but never fades. The cabin shrinks into the landscape, wrapped in trees, wrapped in snow. But the glow remains. A tiny dot of gold in a world of blue and white. A quiet reminder that not all endings are loud. Some are simply beginnings. The screen fades to white. The last thing left is the light, still on. And as the snow began to fall again, the porch light stayed on. Not because someone forgot to turn it off, but because some places are meant to stay lit. For the wanderers, for the weary, for anyone brave enough to begin again. That's the thing about presence. You can't buy it. But when you find it, you realize it was never really that far away. If this story meant something to you, I invite you to like the video and subscribe. Not for the numbers, but because somewhere out there, someone else might be waiting for a story like this to remind them the light is still on.